Welcome to another episode of the Marathon Mindset Podcast. Today's guest is a business owner, keynote speaker, certified John Maxwell speaker, and coach. And it's no other than Tomas Martinez from Luxury Home Magazine. Welcome, man.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Excited to have you on. We'll rehash the conversation we already got into, but I just wanted to have you on because we have a lot of mutual people that we know that know you and that talk really highly of you. And so in those discussions, in those conversations, I was like, I need to get him on here because I need to tell a story. So because I know a little bit about you and did a little digging, kind of your path and everything and what you've gone through. So it's very interesting to me because as far as like the different paths that you've gone down. So give us a little bio, a little about yourself, and then I'll get into the questions.
Cool. Okay. Well, I'll give the Cliff Note version of how I got to San Antonio. Went to high school in Buda, Texas. Okay. And I thought I was going to be an NBA basketball star. I was just watching the NBA playoffs last night. And I thought one day I was going to be on the court, but I'm, 5'7", so that didn't work out as well as I had planned. Went to school to play basketball for a year and then came back to San Antonio. And my dad said, "Hick, I'll pay for your school." I had no idea what I was going to do. Zero.
Where did you go to school?
Wayland Baptist, my first year.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
Plainview, Texas.
Yeah.
Okay. Came to San Antonio, had, again, no clue what I was going to do, but I knew that basketball was something, maybe I'd be a coach or whatever, and I just started going to school while I was here in San Antonio. Went to UTSA my first year here, so it was my sophomore year in college, and struggled. School was tough. I didn't really want to go to school. Yeah. That's a whole nother story. But thankfully, my mom pushed me in the right direction and got me in and to go to college and to think that was that I needed to do that.
Right.
So got my degree in teaching. I became a teacher in '99.
Okay.
And I taught 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And then I taught some middle school as well.
Here in town?
Here in San Antonio.
Okay.
But what brought me here was my dad saying, "Hey, come to school here, and I'll help you out and get you on the right foot to pay for it and pay for at least the first couple of years." And then I had to take over. But I got my teaching degree in '99 and became a teacher, and I absolutely loved my job. Okay. When I say I love my job, I was one of those teachers. I was there at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. I was way too happy. Everybody was like, "Why is this dude whistling?" What's he so happy about?
Without any caffeine.
I had a lot of caffeine back then. Okay. I was drinking a lot of caffeine.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, no. That was the days of Rockstar. That was the days I was drinking like 2 Rockstar. That was a lot of caffeine at that point. But I became a teacher, and then I got my master's degree because I wanted to be a principal. I thought let's get the next level of education. Yeah. So I did that with A&M and Go Aggies, and graduated in 2005, and then didn't get any opportunities with the principalship. Okay. Nothing popped up, but I got an opportunity to be an academic coach, and that was where I stepped out of the classroom and I got to start coaching other teachers. Yeah. And while this whole time I was a teacher, I was also an educational consultant. Like, people hear me speak now, and they're like, "Oh, you just started speaking when you started the magazine," but I actually was teaching and training teachers back from 2004 all the way through my entire teaching career.
What made you go into that? Like what?
The consulting part?
Yeah, like how did you, from teaching, you were loving the classroom.
Yeah.
What made you do that?
I needed money.
I
mean, facts. Dude, facts. I needed extra money bad. Like my wife and I were just like, goodness, I've got this master's degree, I've got this education.
Gotcha.
But you started as a teacher, I was making $32,000. Yeah. So I wasn't making a lot of money, and I literally found in 40 Ferry, or hopefully Jason hears this, to the gentleman Dagan and Jason, who hired me. Like, I had 2 years experience as a teacher, and they hired me to travel the state of Texas teaching other teachers. Wow. This is where I honed my skills of teaching. One of the hardest people in the world to teach are teachers. Yeah. So you can imagine being in front of, here I am, 26 years old, 26, and I'm in a room where the average age is 55 to 60, and I'm telling them how to be successful at teaching.
Both of my parents are teachers.
Okay, then they'll know. They'll understand this, right? Here's a 26-year-old. How long have you been a teacher, But I tell you what that trained me on it trained me on how to talk and engage an audience, but to have empathy that I was connecting with them, like to understand when I wasn't, when I was, and that has transferred even to this day, you know. So fast forward and teach. Get an opportunity to become a full-time consultant. I do that with the same company. Again,
stop teaching. You went into that.
I stopped teaching that year. It's 2010 timeframe, and then that's when the idea started bubbling for the magazine. Okay. So the magazine started bubbling up. Now my wife, I think for people, young people, you know, who you marry matters, right? Mm-hmm. Like your partner is a huge piece to your success. Yeah. And my wife is a massive piece to that success. She really wanted me to pursue even getting my education. She really pushed me later to do John Maxwell. Okay. She's been a massive inspiration for me just with what she's gone through and in her life and in her journey. And so when this whole opportunity to start a business came up, she was like, I think we need to do a magazine. Mm-hmm. I was like, a magazine?
But were y'all in real estate? Like
She was. Okay. She was in new home sales. Okay. Remember Newmark?
Yes.
So she worked in Newmark. She worked at a McNair Custom Homes. Okay. John McNair, massive mentor for both of us. Okay. John is a huge mentor, has helped us out, just the vision for what he built and helping us build what we built. Gotcha. So then she's like, we got to do this magazine. At that point, you know, she was coming out of new home sales and going into real estate. We get our license in 2009. Okay. This is when the market, were you in the market?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So this is a crazy time to be in real estate. Yeah. We get our license. And then within a year though, we did really well. She had like 20 something listings. I mean, she was the listing agent and she made me be her buyer's agent. Okay. Right. So we both have our license. I'm still teaching full time. Okay. During that time. And then, we go on a cruise and she's like, I still think we need to create our own business. And that's when the idea of the magazine came up. Okay. Came back, went to Local Coffee on Santerra, which is now Merit Coffee. Yeah. Did a search, Luxury Home Magazine. Okay. That's a franchise.
Oh, okay.
Had so no clue.
It's not just here in San Antonio.
No, it's nationwide. Gotcha. Yeah, it's all over the country. Okay. And the crazy part is it didn't exist in San Antonio. Now, for most people, if you're entrepreneurial mindset, you go somewhere and you see something that looks really cool, you immediately go, hey, we need to bring this to San Antonio. Right. And every time you do that, what happens? It's already taken. Right. Every time. Well, for whatever reason, this had not been taken. Right. And I learned rather quickly from the agents why. Because when I actually started selling this magazine, when I first got it and I bought the franchise, everybody goes, San Antonio's not luxury. It's not luxury. And I was like, what are you talking about? Yeah. Of course it's luxury. We've got, at that time, we got Dominion, right? Yeah. I don't even think Anaqua was started at that point, maybe 11. Yeah. So 2011, we buy the franchise, start the magazine, and I go sit down with the top agents. I literally, it's probably not the best way to start to talk to the top agents when you're first learning how to sell. Because Mikey, you have to understand, I was a teacher. Yeah. I'd never sold anything. Yeah. And now I'm going in front of the top agents in the city saying, you need to be in my magazine that you don't even think San Antonio's luxury. You know what I mean? So it was a very difficult beginning to get people to buy into this idea that no, San Antonio is luxury. Yeah. And this is going to be your luxury resource. And so in August, that will be 12 years ago.
That's awesome, man.
How nuts is that,
That's awesome. So you could you can say that you help create the luxury market in San Antonio, because not just by selling, but like creating this niche where you're promoting that lifestyle, that, that type of product, and putting it on a magazine and being able to do that. And so now it becomes that product. Yeah, it becomes that market.
Yeah, so I like that. I would say that we were instrumental in showcasing it because it hadn't really been showcased at that point. Yeah. No one really put it. I mean, there were some magazines that tried. There was a magazine called Brilliance. That was it was a kind of a lifestyle type magazine. Okay. It came out I think it was in 2008, 9, 10, somewhere in that ballpark. But again, it didn't have the piece where it really focused on the agents. I wanted to, it's a franchise.
Sure.
We really want to help realtors sell high-end listings.
Gotcha.
And companies be in front of the most affluent
Sure.
Buyers and sellers.
Yeah.
So that's what we created, and again, I'm blessed because number one, an amazing team. We have an amazing team at Luxury Magazine, and then of course the agents that have supported us. I mean, I have people that have been in my magazine since day one, and they're still in the magazine.
Yeah.
I have a lot of agents.
I went back through all your Instagram and like when it started, and I like that event you threw with like the Cirque du Soleil people and stuff like that. So I saw like the photos of the agents that were there, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah. So I started to see, and then they've still been
still in there.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's pretty cool, man.
Yep. Our current cover right now is Binkan Cineroglu. Okay. That party was a party at Binkan's listing. It was on the cover at that time. And an agent like him, he's the number one luxury agent. He does no advertising other than luxury. This is his one advertising, and he does no social.
Okay.
Zero social media.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yep.
I mean, you talked about the cruise.
Yep.
Where you talked about it. Where were y'all going?
We cruise a lot. At that time, I mean, we COVID messed up our cruising a little bit, but we're going to be on another one coming up. But I have in the Caribbean somewhere.
Okay, all right.
We love cruising.
So it was like on a napkin kind of thing, like you're all just talking, and
it was. She just said, "I think we should do this," and I just remember sitting there going, "Why?" It's print. Prince. Yeah. What do we hear? In 2011, Prince dead.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody's doing print. Nobody's doing magazines.
Yeah.
So it was to sit there and go, yeah, let's try to do this was kind of like it was a big feat. But when we started talking with the gentleman who owned the franchise at the time, Brad Taylor, you couldn't help but feel like, you know what? We can make this work in San Antonio. And so we did. And in 2013, I took it to Austin. Okay. And Austin, as you know, the luxury, it's so amazing. Yeah. I mean, I've had $40 million houses on the cover in Austin. You know what I mean? Last cover was $19.9 million. Yeah. It's just a different ball game in the Austin market. But we just celebrated 10 years in Austin.
Wow.
Yep.
That's cool, man.
Super cool.
So the whole thing, background. Let's go. Your wife and you, but I mean, like, from Buda.
Yep.
Where's your wife from?
She grew up in New Orleans and then moved to Chicago. Okay. And then from Chicago, she came to San Antonio, and I met her at a quinceañera. Oh, wow. Here in San Antonio. It wasn't her quinceañera.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have my sister Keisha, my brother Ben, brother Charlie, TJ, and Malia, and everybody. My little sister just graduated from college. Yeah, she just graduated last weekend or 2 weekends ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Malia.
That's a big family, man.
Big family. It's awesome. Let me tell you, when we all get together, we have a great time.
I just did that last night. That's to a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a great time.
So and I bring up the family because I always want to like see if like, when you're talking about entrepreneurship, that comes from somewhere. Like, you know, it takes some fortitude, it takes some guts to kind of go, I want to go start this thing. Yep. You know what I mean? And you had the secure job, but at the same time, you're trying to do something else to make some money, and you're making the money, and then it's like, why go do that? Was there anything in the family that kind of gave you that, or showed you that roadmap kind of thing?
No, there's no entrepreneurs that were immediately in my family. Now, on my wife's side, her family were, they like a lot of entrepreneurialism in their family. Yeah. But from my side, no, there was none of that. Now, I had friends, some really good friends that were owning their own business, that were running their own business. But as far as family members, no, immediately around me, no, nothing like that.
Okay. And for me, it's always like there's always a catalyst, right? And so like for you, it was like, oh yeah, we want to make some more money, but then it's like to go start this, and then go. I also want to go and speak and do the speaking because you did the consulting thing. Like, what made you get into the coaching and speaking in real, like for businesses other than teaching? Number one, I think the speaking came from like this.
really feeling like I wanted to just like pour into people. You know what I mean? I've always been a big personal development person.
Okay.
My first book was John Maxwell, The 21 Indispensable Qualities of a Leader.
Okay.
I remember grabbing that book at Barnes & Noble when it was my first year of teaching. And I remember, because before that, like I didn't want to read. My dad would try to pay me to read books. And I apologize, Dad. My dad would give me a book and say, I'm going to give you $10. And he'd give me the $10 in advance. Yeah. I would give the book back and the $10.
That's hilarious.
When I was younger, because I just didn't want to read.
Yeah.
I had so many other things that I wanted to do beside reading.
Yeah.
And now, you know, for when I look back on that, I was like, dang it, there was an opportunity there to grow. Mm-hmm. And then, but I caught this love of reading for two reasons. Number one, I loved reading and hearing stories of people that went from, you know, nothing to something. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. I loved hearing stories of people that went through a challenge and how they figured out how to get out of that challenge, their personal journey story. And then number two, you know, I loved the idea that one day that I could write a book. Like I thought there's going to be that one day that's going to come forward. Yeah. And so, like I think, so you said, I think the question you're asking is what was the catalyst for the magazine or the speaking? I think it was, some of this has just been almost natural process of, because of the journey I'm on, I'm sharing the journey and being able to speak in front of people to share the journey. And then I also think that I think when you have a gift to share, it's like, man, I got to use this gift. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things God's given me, this ability to communicate, but communicate in a way where I can package it to where I can talk to somebody that's young, I can talk to somebody that's old, and I can kind of bridge that gap. Yeah. You know? So
you talked about McNair being a mentor, when was the first time that you said I need a mentor? Or it just happened? It just one of those relationships that like
they just connected.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say, like, you know, the biggest one that really in my entrepreneurial world was probably Brad. Brad was the gentleman who trained me for the magazine. He was a gentleman that we bought the franchise from. Okay. And for me, what Brad, number one, there's, you know, when you see someone that has a level of success that you want to achieve, that you want to grow to, it definitely makes you all ears. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And so you want to listen. You're like, hey, what else are you going to tell me? And so he was a huge mentor. Emil Bonfilio, who was the vice president of Luxury On Magazine at that time. Okay. Again, great mentor. Like, I was calling these guys every single day saying, what do I do now? I just signed another person. How do I do this? Right. Yeah. So those were huge mentors. You know, I think, you know, when you get married, right, your spouse can become an amazing mentor because they're going to see things from a different perspective than you do. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So how long you been married?
It's going on 9 years.
9 years, okay. Yeah. So I got a little bit of time on you, just a little bit. Okay. It's 23 years I've been married, just a little bit.
Congratulations.
But this is like, there were things that my wife would see that I couldn't see. Yeah. She's like the Johari window. Like she can look at, and see things that I wasn't being able to see. Right. And so she's been a massive mentor in that way of just going, hey, I don't think that relationship is probably going to be the most beneficial for us moving forward. And I wouldn't do that deal. I would do this deal. You know what I mean? Like, so like I'd say to all the husbands out there, and because we can, as men, sometimes we can discount what our wife's intuition is. Yeah. Right? We can discount their gut feeling. Yeah. And they've got a way better gut feeling than we do. Way better.
So mine is I tell my wife all the time that I hear everything that you say. Yeah. I mean, I may discount it up front when we're like in the heat of the, conversation, but I definitely take it all in. And then like a day later, I'd be like, you know what? You were right. Yeah. Because like, I just don't want to give her that win right there. Yeah. I think that's what it is. And then it's kind of like a confrontation, but then it's like, no, you know what? You were right. I usually, when I, come with my hat, like, you were right. But yeah, no, 100% is they see, it's, what is it? Venus and Mars, we see it different. You know what I mean? So
yeah, big time.
Yeah, that's interesting. My wife's gonna like that shit.
Yeah. What's your wife's name?
Jennifer.
Jennifer. Yeah. No, so I mean, my wife's name's Christina. So Christina, there have been, in the 23 years we've been married, there's been so many times where she has seen something so far in advance that it would have taken me years to figure out that she saw in an instant.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. That's cool that you bring her in. I mean, but y'all been married a long time, so that's awesome. You kids?
Yep, I have one. Right? 13.
Okay.
Enzo.
Dang.
Yep, he's in D.C. right now.
What's he doing?
He's there for a school trip.
Okay.
Yep, he's in D.C. right now.
That's cool. Mine's out, so she's kind of, I think she'll be coming here probably in another hour.
Nice.
So. But, so that's awesome, man. So, talk to me about the coaching part, because it's something that I've experienced with in real estate. So I've been doing it since 2006, but I've done coaching. I've been in a coaching program before. Sometimes it just didn't work out. You never got the right coach, or you know what I mean? You sign up for this one company and they give you this other person, and that type of thing. So how did you get into it with real estate or with business people? Is it just real estate, or is it all different types of businesses?
I've pretty much I've helped people from all across different businesses. Okay. It hadn't just been one. I mean, I coached a gentleman that owned a used car lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so how did I get into it is, I guess the start of that is John Maxwell.
Okay.
I remember I was at a breakfast with my wife and a gentleman that I knew. He was the vice president of Lone Star Bank, and he had retired, and he was, living his best life with horses and the ranches and the whole nine. And he walks up and we say hi, we're talking, and he's like, I was like, well, what are you up to? He's like, I'm going to John Maxwell. I'm like, what do you mean going to John Maxwell? He's like, I'm a coach. I'm a John Maxwell coach. That I had never heard of that.
Yeah.
This was in 14, I think.
Okay.
2014. And I said, I want to be a John Maxwell coach. And he goes, I'm going to have somebody call you. And I said, okay.
Yeah.
The lady called me. It was a Thursday.
Yeah.
Lady calls me Friday, the next day. She said, I hear you're interested. And I said, yeah, I'm very interested. And she says, okay, we actually have an opening. She's like, are you available next week? I go, for what? She goes, well, we're having the training next week in Florida. And I was like, well, how much is it? So she starts rolling out all the pricing and this and that. And I just remember sitting there just going, oh my gosh, like I got to call my wife. Yeah. I said, can I call you right back? I called my wife. I said, hey, this is what it's going to cost. It's going to be about $10,000. This is an opportunity of a lifetime. I kid you not. I feel like I'm almost begging my wife. You know what I mean?
Right,
in a sense of like,
you think she's gonna say no?
No. I 100% thought she was gonna say no. Because it was so much. Like in my mind at that time, we'd only been around for 3 years.
Okay.
This is a very beginning stages.
Yeah.
Everything was real tight. We were starting Austin, right? Yeah. Austin had been going around, been around for about a year. Anyways, and I'm just like, and she's like, Tomas. She's like, hey, you need to do this. You have to do it. And I get goosebumps right now thinking about it because here I am trying to like set the stage of why I feel like it's important.
Right.
In her mind, it was like, no, you don't have to sell me.
Yeah.
You have to go.
Gotcha.
And I went. Literally, I bought it that Monday. I was on a plane that Tuesday. I was sitting in a room in front of John Maxwell with 200 other people doing a Q&A.
Okay.
Well, we're talking about in a matter of from Thursday to Wednesday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it was like groundbreaking. I almost am, for me at that time, I almost feel like there was a shift in just understanding my purpose, understanding what I was going to do. Now, coaching. One of the sessions is about coaching.
Okay.
And so they bring out these juggling, I don't know if you know how to juggle, right? They bring out these juggling balls, and I know how to juggle. Yeah. And so I was like, I got this, Well, what you had to do is you had to coach somebody, right? Without telling them what to do. You could only encourage them or ask questions.
Interesting.
So I want you to imagine, right? Yeah. So like a new skill, you're going to inquire, ask questions, right?
Yeah.
And continue to ask questions, get feedback, but you can't tell them what to do.
Yeah.
And because he asked the guy, Christian Simpson, he asked, he said, how many of you want to coach and you want to be a coach and consultant to other people? I was like, I don't want to coach anybody. That's not my thing.
Okay.
And he goes, for those of you with your hand not in the air, it's because you don't understand what coaching is. You don't understand what coaching is. That's what he told. And I was like, oh, okay. So we go through this whole training, and I remember he goes, now, coaching, real coaching is inquiry-based to pull out of someone what's already inside them so that they can come to their own conclusions and come to their own understanding of exactly what it is they need to do. Consultative coaching is where you go sit down and they just go, okay, hey, Mike, you need to go do this, make 10 phone calls, do this, make this list. Hey, do that. I'll call you tomorrow to make sure you did it. Right. That's like an accountability. That's more consulting type. And what I realized is that real coaching is where you draw out what someone has within. Yeah. And really get them, because if I told you you could be a success if you follow these 5 steps, those 5 steps may not work for you. Right. They may work for, Billy, but they didn't work for Mike, right? Right. Because it's not a matter of the steps, it's why you do the steps. Right. We got to pull out and inquire, why did you not make phone calls? Mm-hmm. What's stopping you from making phone calls? What's stopping you from lead generating? Yeah. And when you start to dig down into those cores, then you start realizing, okay, now I know how to really help you. Right. Now I know how to help you help yourself. Right. So that was the genesis. That's what I learned at John Maxwell. Yeah. And it was like, okay, I can coach. Okay. And now, not only, I don't have to know your industry. No. I don't know anything about used cars. It's all people. It's people, right? Yeah. So I walked in, and the gentleman that had the used car dealership, and I just started asking lots of questions. Well, I started realizing he had the same problem everybody else has. Mm-hmm. He had it's people, right? It was his workforce and how to motivate, how to encourage, how to get. So coaching, real coaching is inquiry-based. And when I learned that, it was a game changer. It changed everything for me. And it made me more open to the idea. And so the first person I ever coached here in San Antonio was Rick Garza. Those were my first coaching clients, right? And I'll never forget, Rick called me and he goes, hey, man, we got to talk, man. And I think I had done a mastermind or something, and I'd done these little small group masterminds. And he goes, I need a business coach. And I was like, yeah, I know a few people that do that. And he goes, yeah, man, can you help me? And it literally clicked. I was like, Tomas, you just got back from John Maxwell like 8 months ago. Yeah. You can coach Rick. And I said, Rick, you know what? I think I can coach you. And he goes, really? He goes, would you want to coach me? I said, absolutely. I think I could do. I think we could do this. Let me coach you. Yeah. Let me walk alongside you and help you out. And he was just like, he was a little like dumbfounded, a little like shocked, like, sure. Do you have time to do that? He goes, I'd love for you to coach me. Yeah. At the exact same time, Sandra Rangel reached out and she needed a coach. That's funny. And I was like, yeah, I could coach. Yeah, let's do this. So we started coaching. And then I think Sandra and I have worked on and off for since that had to be 2015 timeframe, somewhere around there. Okay. And what I realized is that when you really listen, when you really hear like, hey, what's going on, and you ask questions, but you allow yourself to ask questions not from what am I going to think as I'm asking the question, right? But allowing the conversation just to flow, to ask those questions, to find out what's going on. Sure. It's been amazing, So yeah. I love the inquiry based. I love letting people kind of really dig into where they're at and then hearing them by asking questions.
That's and that's literally when you talk about coaching, like that's usually what, you talk about the champions, right? You talk about, Kobe and like all the coaches and the people that were behind them, like with Mike, you know what I mean? Like all these things.
Phil Jackson.
Yeah. Like you see all of this stuff and it's like, it's a relationship, and it's not just like, here, you do this, you do that. 'Cause you don't know what that other person's story is and what they've gone through, and you're telling somebody what to do and they're like, well, you know what I mean? So and I think that's, for me, that's kind of like where my experiences have fallen with coaching is because it wasn't like that type of
more consultative.
Yeah.
Now I've had a coach. I've paid for coaching. I've had coaches, and I think there's something to a balance between it, right? There's a little bit of a balance, and there were times where I would take my coaching hat, say, "Hey, I'm going to take my coaching hat off, and I'm going to be your CFO or your CEO right now." I got because we got to break through a little bit, and there's you kind of got to step in.
Right.
But I will tell you that having somebody in your corner that you can share what's really going on, and then have them inquire and really pull stuff out of you is powerful.
Oh, I bet.
Powerful.
So I'm gonna sidestep.
Yeah.
Because big in athletics and at the same time martial arts as well. I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
And I saw
Serious?
that you box.
Yes.
Or you train and you've been doing it for a while.
Yep. I just switched up. I do like Ironman training and triathlon training.
That, yeah.
But yes, I have boxed and I love it.
Okay. And so now it's Ironman, because I know it was like I told you I'd like a deep dive on your Instagram and stuff, and so saw you're doing the half marathons, and now you've graduated to Ironmans.
Yeah.
How many have you done?
I did this. I just did my second one. I did a full and a half.
Okay.
So my last one was a half in Tulsa, 2 weeks ago.
What is just to the people who don't know, what's a half Ironman and what's a full?
So a full is a 2.4 mile swim, and then you ride on the bike for 112 miles. And then you run a full marathon, 26.2 miles at the end of it. Yeah. That's a full.
That's a full.
And then a half is half of all of that. 1.2 mile swim, 56 mile bike, and then a 13.1 mile run.
Like 70.
Yeah. 70.3. Okay. Exactly. Yep. 70.3.
I've seen the sticker.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's 140.6 and then 70.3. So yeah.
I have a friend whose brother has done one, and I remember him like documenting his training and stuff.
Yeah.
So I know the training's intense.
Yep.
So having a coach for Ironman, I mean, I'm sure you have to like get into, because you can't just like, I'm gonna go do an Ironman.
No.
And do it.
No.
So I mean, how does that coaching relationship?
How did it work?
Yeah.
I think there's
with you being a coach, because you have this coach, mindset and already, and it's like you obviously know, like, okay, I need this, but how to allow yourself to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think it's two things. Number one, I think you have to get to a point where you could see yourself actually doing it, like crossing the finish line.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So for me, it was in 2019. I saw 4 buddies that trained, and I watched them during their training. I watched them learn how to swim. They didn't know how to swim. I watched them go from, the idea of swimming to learning how to swim, teaching themselves how to swim, riding bikes. Yeah. I watched all of this, and the whole time I was boxing, I was doing my boxing thing, and I was like, man, that's stupid. This is too much work now. I was like, you were on a bike for 4.5 hours. That's dumb, Yeah. And so I flew to Tempe, and I remember I was there, and I remember being at the finish line, and I saw my first buddy, it's Rob, that finished first, and I remember watching it, and there is an emotion. I like, even right now, seeing him, seeing Wes, seeing Rob, seeing William and Raul. Seeing those 4 guys. And I watched the entire race. I was cheering them on from the swim to when they got out of the swim. I saw them all get out. And then when they got on the bike, I saw them all riding the bikes. And then when they got off the bikes, I remember seeing Raul, who had 2 flat tires, get off the bike, and he goes to his run. And I remember sitting there in the crowd, and I'm like, Wes at one point, Wes is running, and he gets to there's what they call an aid station where you could get your bag. Okay. And it's like think of it as like an emergency needs bag. Like, you get to a certain point in the run, you need food, you need nourishment to have this bag, but it's a one-time use. Once you use it, it's done. You got to throw everything away if you don't use it, okay? Wes comes up, and he is silly, laughing. He's probably at 14, 15 miles into the run. Hysterical. Like, no, I don't know if you ever met Wesley, but he's just goofing off, like, hey, watch me. Like, he gets a pickle. He's eating his pickle. Like he hadn't been working out for the last 12 hours. Okay. And I just remember thinking, like, what? This is crazy. This is different. Yeah. So, again, you got to have the vision to see someone else do it and to go, man, it's possible. Yeah. And then number two, you've got to overcome your own lack of belief, your own idea of what can I do that.
Right. Yeah.
So my first hurdle was swimming. I didn't know how to swim lap. I couldn't go from one end to the other.
Okay.
Like just one end down, I would be done. Okay. And so I had to get a coach. I hired a coach, Mark Zeroni. Shout out to Mark Zeroni. He has Paragon Training. Okay. He does not do swim teaching anymore, so don't call him the swim coach, okay? He'll have somebody help you. Yeah. But back then, he helped me. This was in 2019, December of 2019. And I remember him watching me swim and just kind of walking me through the basics. And then he said, now, this was his coaching. His coaching was, here are the drills. Yeah. Go do it and don't come back until you get comfortable. Right?
Okay.
I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Because here at this level, it's not like you can't have anybody like, hey, I'm calling today to check in. Did you swim today? How did your, no, that doesn't work, right? Yeah. You've got to have a level of discipline. And I will tell you, if you would have asked me prior to like 2016, like what was my level of discipline on a 1 to 10, my level of discipline was like a 2. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? From a workout standpoint, a life standpoint, maybe like a 4 or 5. I wasn't extremely disciplined. Yeah. And what this did was it taught me self-discipline on a whole nother level. When you work out, 12 to 14 hours a week, you learn discipline because I had to be the one motivated. Yeah, nobody's gonna and the plan, that you buy a plan. I bought the plan from a coach, and the plan literally shows up on my watch. It shows up on my dashboard, and every morning I knew exactly what I needed to do. I need to run. I need a bike. I need to swim. I need a bike. I need to do this, and on the weekend, long bike, long run, every weekend. Yeah. That level of discipline changed me.
Yeah, I bet.
Changed me, and it made me better at business because I had to be more efficient. Because if I was going to work out, for 2 to 4 hours, I had to be able to do my work a lot quicker. I couldn't just sit there and and mess around. Yeah. So no, took it to a different level. And now it didn't start with Ironman because I think a lot of people they have the impression that like I went from like 0 to like Ironman. Mm-hmm. No, it started with boxing. I started training with Tony Adeniran at Black Stallion Boxing. Yeah. Shout out to Tony who was on Shark Tank. Great guy for a podcast, by the way. Okay. Tony took me from 190. I was 190 pounds, 189 pounds at 5'7". He took me down to, I got down to 160, 165 in that ballpark. I started like abs started showing up. Yeah. I was like, baby, look at these abs. I was like, I didn't know I had abs, Yeah. But I had to go through a journey to get to that point. So that was in 16. Fast forward, started helping some of my friends make some weight loss journeys. They started joining me. And during the meantime, I would do 2-a-days. So I would run and then box. Well, then the running and boxing turned into, we got to do it more than 2 times a week. We started doing it 3 times a week. And then it was another buddy of mine, Binkan. We started doing these crazy things where we would do 5 days a week. We would do 2-a-days during the summer. And we would work out, boxing workout, run. Then we'd come back and do another boxing workout later in the day. Yeah. Did that 5 days a week. Then we started running like crazy amount of miles. I got him running with me. We would do half marathons just for the weekend, just because. Dang. Then one day we decided, this was in 2018. I think I ran 1,100 miles, in a year. We ran 2 half marathons in a weekend, one on Saturday, one on Sunday, back to back. Crazy. Why were we doing it? No purpose other than we could. Yeah. And it was like, it felt good. Yeah. We loved the feeling of it.
Yeah, the endorphins.
Now think about all that. That led to me running my first marathon in 18. Okay. There's no Ironman even on the map. None of my friends are talking about Ironman. Okay. That wasn't even on the map yet. Yeah. But I ran my first full marathon in 18. Okay. In 19, I ran 2 full marathons. All of that was leading up to the idea. But until I saw them cross the finish line, Mike, none of that was real. Yeah. Even the thought if someone had said, hey, you should do an Ironman, I would be like, that's dumb. Yeah. I don't there's no connection in my brain. I see them cross the finish line. Now it makes sense. Yeah.
It's the visualization process. And I think, so it's funny when it's somebody that's close to you, like your friends and et cetera, and you see them do it. So that's why here, when you talk about mentorship and everything else, like in real estate, we have, newer agents that come in and it's like, how to have mentorship, but it's like one of my, stories is that I have an agent here that, I pulled from. He was working at one of these places where you have, offices and he's working the front desk. And I'm like having conversations about real estate. And I'm like, I can show you how to do it. Cause he's asking all the questions and everything else. And I'm like, I can show you, like, I'll tell you and show you everything you need to do. You just need to do it.
Yep.
And he was like, okay.
Yeah.
And until he took the jump, but when he took the jump finally a year later, I mean, all I did was just show. He goes, just show me tell me what I need to do.
Yep.
And so like seeing that and going, oh yeah, okay. But you got to have the want to, right?
You have to have the desire.
Yeah.
The desire has to be there, like to get up every day and to train at that level.
Yeah.
You got to know why, because you don't want to be embarrassed when it comes time. My first marathon, I had never run past 14 miles.
Okay.
My friends thought I was crazy. Yeah. They're like, you haven't run past 14 miles? No. Then why are you doing a marathon? That's dumb. Like, you need to train. You need to get at least up to 18. And I don't want to. Right. I'm just going to go do it and get it over with. Mm-hmm. Now I paid the price for that. Yeah. So for people thinking, you're going to run 13, I paid the price.
I paid the price when we did a Spartan. So,
okay, yeah.
So it was kind of like you, but we did it to do office camaraderie.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, let's all do the Spartan race, and we started off with the middle one.
Okay. What's the distance? I don't know the distances.
8 miles.
Okay.
So at that point, I had maybe 3, 4, 5 miles is the most I ever done. But I was like, all right. So we all did it.
Yeah.
We all finished. It was great.
Yeah.
Because it was the whole, office. Even I had one of my admins, and she was, we were like, you're going to do it? She's like, yeah, I'll do it with y'all. And, and she finished, and we were like cheering for her. It was great. Shout out to April. And then we're like, hey, if you do all 3 in a year, they say you did the trifecta.
Yeah.
All right, let's go do it. So the next one was a shorter one, which is like a 3-4 mile one.
Okay.
So we did that. And then I'm like, hey guys, we're just one race away. We can do the trifecta. And there was like, everybody else was like, nah, because it was the beast. And it's like 13, 14 miles.
Yeah.
But they say it's supposed to be 13, 14, but it's actually longer.
It's longer. Okay.
So 3 of us did it.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I was like, was it mile 10?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah.
And I'm like, why am I doing this? Yeah. Why?
Yep.
You're just like asking yourself all these questions and like just talking all this mess to yourself.
Yep.
But like, it was just like, well, you're already halfway there.
Yep.
Like, let's go. But at the same time, it was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like,
yeah.
and I probably won't do like
another
Spartan like that. Like,
like
for what? Like, I have an instructor who, Helson Gracie is my instructor's instructor. And he always says, he's like, why are you going to run a marathon? Somebody chasing you? He was like, you know what I mean? Like, why are you going to run that much? So, but no, but it is definitely a discipline, and it is definitely something that you have to have a why. And yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people who have done marathons, who've trained them, trained for them, and even the Ironman. I mean, that's a lot of discipline.
Yeah. I think the thing about any type of event like this, for me, what I've learned is that success is a journey, right? So, there was a time in my life where I thought, if I get to this point, then I'm a success, right? It's the destination disease, right? But the reality is, if we're playing an infinite game, business is an infinite game. Simon Sinek talks about, in the infinite game, the idea is to keep the game going.
Right.
We got to keep this game going. Yeah. How do we do that? Well, number one, you got to take care of your stinking body. Your body.
Health is wealth.
It is critical. So you got to take care of your body. You got to take care of your mind. You got to take care of spiritually your well-being. Right. And if you don't do those things, then the game becomes more difficult, and it's really hard to make the game keep going if you're not healthy, if you're not really taking care of yourself. Yeah. And so I tell people all the time, like these tests, like the one I just did in Tulsa, I got to the run. I'm 2 miles in, and it's downhill, and I'm running at like an 8:45 pace, which is stupid, way too fast, okay? But I'm going downhill, and I'm justifying I'm going downhill, so I'm just allowing my body just to run this pace. Yeah. And I paid for it because later on, I had to go back up that hill. Oh. But more importantly, my body, I pushed a little too hard in the bike, but I get to mile 2 or 3, and I had the same question. why do you put yourself through this? Why are you even here at this moment, like doing this to yourself? But I think that those are the moments when we're in business, when you got to make payroll, when you've got to solve a problem that nobody else can solve but you. Right. Those are the moments where you get to define who you are and get to decide, this is who I'm going to be today. I'm going to figure out this problem, or I'm going to find somebody to help me solve this problem. Right. But I can't quit, because the game is about keeping the game going.
Yeah. David Goggins.
I
mean, it's like the story of when they're in the water and everything else, and all these guys quit, and it's like, they're like, why? Why am I here? Like, I thought I was going to be a badass, but I'm not really a badass, so I'm going to go ring that bell.
Ring the bell.
You know what I mean? And it's like,
but you can't ring the bell, right? Because then the game's over.
It's over,
right? The game, that particular game. And so I look at business like with what you do, with what we do. Our goal is to keep the game going and help grow our people around us. Yeah. Well, first of all, we got to, like oxygen mask, we got to grow ourselves, right? Take care of ourselves, take care of us first, take care of our family, and then those around us we got to take care of. Yeah. It's important.
Well, and it's like I tell these guys too, it's like when you're talking about the long game, you know, that's kind of the reason why I called it the marathon mindset. It was like, it's literally, we're playing life, the game of life, right? And so there's no shortcuts. And if this is, you know, I tell the agents that are here, is like, if you're in this, you know, for the long haul, and, you know, like, not just to make quick money and then you're out, like, well, then you got to play and act like you're doing this for a long haul. Like, this is your livelihood. This is going to be your business, and this is going to be what people look at you and go, this is who you are. How do you play the game? Are you going to be ethical, or are you going to be unethical? And are you going to take shortcuts? You're not. And so that's, it's 100%. It's the same. Yeah, it's the same.
Yep.
So that leads me to a question where you were talking about the why. So all the different paths that you've gone down, you know, teaching, consulting, coaching, even in your health journey, like, which one has taught you the most?
Which one of those has taught me?
Yeah, which one of those paths?
The paths?
Yeah.
I think they're all different, right? They all teach different layers to it. So the pathway to teaching really taught me that I had to grow in areas that I didn't want to grow in. Like, for instance, when I became a teacher, I was teaching third graders, and none of my kids loved to read. And I didn't like to read.
Yeah.
So here I am, a teacher, doesn't like to read, and I've got kids in my classroom that don't like to read. And so I had to figure out how to find a love for reading in myself so that I could pass that on to my students in my classroom. And so I had to grow, and I had to find books that would interest them to where they would get excited about it. And so that pathway took me down a road of reading, I mean, a lot of books, mostly business type stuff, but it opened up my mind to a different way of thinking, a different way of, abundance mindset, really helping my mind grow. Then, so that was the teaching pathway. And then, of course, education, getting the education that I got and getting my master's degree. Obviously, that up levels your mind and it up levels your network. Right? People, sometimes we think education is dead, but sometimes it's not necessarily what you learned in it. It's the people that you come in contact with that people forget about. Right? So it's a network that you create. Then the pathway of the entrepreneurship is fighting through a lot of no. Like, fighting through the fact that I had people tell me, it's not a luxury city. You can't, this is not going to work in San Antonio, Texas. I had to overcome just a belief that, no, we can make this, we can make a magazine and people can buy into this. And so I had to find the belief first. That's a big growing thing that helped me. And then, of course, the health journey, what I think that did was, I've always been an energetic person, even like before all the exercise. Like, even when I didn't exercise and I was 190, right? I was still extremely hyper and crazy and just like a lot of energy. But I think what the working out did was it helps me burn off some of that excess and it gives me a clearer mindset, especially when I eliminated the caffeine, right? But just for people to understand, when I say I eliminated caffeine, I was drinking, 4 to 5 espressos a day, right? Lattes, right? I was drinking a lot of caffeine. And so once I did that, the clarity of my thinking changed with along with the exercise and that. So yeah, I mean, every pathway has shown me something different. I don't think one outweighs the other because they've all shaped me to be the man that I am today. Yeah. And if I don't think one has basically been better, I should say.
Okay. What about fatherhood?
Oh man, being a dad, dude, it's shaped me to be more patient. It shaped me to be more humble, right? Like I can't you with a 13-year-old, if you're the know-it-all and you just know everything, like you push away and not pull them close. Yeah. And so yeah, being a dad, man, it's just been it's an eye opener to really understanding that I've got to be that person for my son and model what I want him to be, not tell him who I want him to be. There's a big difference between the two.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
and it's hard. Yeah. It's not easy.
Oh, I have an 8-year-old daughter, man, and it definitely changed my life. But at the same time, like, now that she's getting older and coming into her own and just her own person and just all the little intricacies of how her, how she is, you go, okay, I can't impose anything on that. It's like what you give me, I have to like appreciate and go, okay, I have to adapt to that instead of it being like, no, Dad said this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I do that a lot, but at the same time, then again, it's like I still hear and see everything that's going on, and then go, you know what, that wasn't the right thing. I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have done it that way. And we have those conversations, like, you know what, Dad did, wasn't right. You know what I mean? And but yeah, it's just the constant learning. It's the constant, trying to figure it out.
Yeah, well, being married too, right? So like, I think that's been a huge part of my growth, because for my wife, she would just say, she's like, the way you treat me is the way our son will treat other women.
Yeah, my wife tells me that all the time.
Right?
Yeah.
And when I remember the first time she said, the way you respond to me is how he's going to respond to me. Yeah. And there's been a couple of times where I've heard Enzo and I literally just go, oh.
Yeah. God, dude, I've had
like,
that moment too, bro.
And I literally just have to go, and my wife, and there's been a few times where she said, you see what I mean?
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And so the good thing is that, as a man, as a husband, you have to learn that there's humility, that you're going to have to be like, hey, son, come here.
Yeah.
Dad is not perfect.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we talk about perfection a lot because there's nobody gonna be. We don't expect perfection out of him.
Right.
I don't expect to be perfect out of myself. Like, it's just not gonna happen.
Right.
But we have those conversations. But no, it's taught me a lot. Being married, having a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Running a business. Yeah. All of it. You know,
man. This is
having employees.
So how many employees do you have with
There's
the
5 total.
5. Okay.
Yeah. 5 total. Yeah.
So when you're talking about running a magazine, because for the people who don't know, I mean, I just think of like you have to go and get sales for advertising, et cetera. But then it's like there's the creative side, there's the layout. I mean, I'm sure there's people that you have that do that.
Yep.
But like, what is running a magazine like?
Well, I would say running a magazine is you're using all facets of I think the God-given talents that God has given me. Right.
Yeah.
So the facet of I was an artist. I was very creative. So when I was younger, so I like to draw and all of that when I was younger. So that creative side gets to be shown in some of the design. But I have a designer.
Yeah.
But I know what I like and I know what looks good.
We tweak it.
So I can see that. So that part. So the other talent is people. Yeah. I think I've been blessed with the ability to really communicate with people and to really listen, hear, understand, and then figure out how can we work together. So in sales, I've never really felt like per se I was selling other than educating. Yeah. There's a difference. When you educate somebody and it's like, hey, here's what we do, here's how this works, and here's how it will benefit you being a part of Luxury Home Magazine. And I'm educating it's a little bit, it comes off a little different than selling.
Right.
You know? And then the other part to it is obviously you're juggling time frames, getting people to turn things in. I've got a photo that I need to get from a photographer, and I'm trying to get them to sell me a picture so I can use it for another ad for another company. Yeah. And so there's that kind of coordination that has to happen. And then of course there's payroll, there's budgeting, there's all of that comes into play. So I would say it's like running any other business. Mm-hmm. It's just I'm dealing with the top people in the industry that are all paying me to be a part of the magazine.
Sure.
Yeah. So I know
performers, ego, all of it together.
You know, and here's the beautiful thing. The beautiful thing is it's very little ego in that sense. Okay. Like I think that we created something where I'm not basing it off of who's better than who's doing better than who's doing better.
Gotcha.
It's all based on seniority, like who's been in the longest, and that's it. You know, whether you're the number one or number two or number three.
Right. And
I think everybody realizes that, and they know that. It's not like I'm playing favorites because it's the magazine who's been in the longest, and it's just kind of lays out that way.
Yeah,
those who've been in the longest, they're in the front, and there's no other real favoritism, if you will, in that regard. So I think agents respect that, and it's been like that since day one, since I started. Yeah. So I think that helps with the relationships.
Okay.
So
one thing that I always kind of ask about is you're dealing with like your teams, right? Mm-hmm. So with your coaching business, it's you and maybe your wife and
just me.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you've got the magazine. Yep. And then when you're coaching, so like with the magazine, I guess that'd be their biggest team that you're with. And
yes.
So like how is your communication style? I mean, obviously, you know, having the coaching background, but how do you deal with your teams and getting things done and whatnot?
Well, we have regular meetings. We meet on Monday. We do Zoom because everybody works from home, with the exception of my videographer. Okay. So we have consistent communication via Zoom, text. Hey, here's the things that we need to get done. Here's how we need our plan of attack. Yeah. We have a very laid out system with the Google Docs, where we know, okay, how many ads do we have? How many people do we need to sell in this next issue? Yeah. How many pages do we want to grow to? So we have a very systematic approach that we've built over the last, now 12 years that we've been able to do this. So I keep it very fluid. To where at any given time, we all have Yealink phones that we can be in contact with each other at any given moment. And I make myself available to be able to answer any questions. But I think the biggest thing that I would say is empowerment, right? Right? Like the biggest thing that I would tell people is that if you're going to run a business and you think you have to make every decision, you're going to be miserable. Yeah. If you're the only person that can make every decision, life will be torture. Yeah. And if you're the only person that people can go to with a question, it will be even more miserable. And Rick and I have had this conversation. If you're the firefighter and if there's fires and you're the only person that can fight the fires, then that's all you'll do. Right. So I really feel strongly with empowering my people to make decisions, to know, right? It just being able to understand, is it good for the client? Right. Is it good for you? Is it good for the company? Right? If you know those basic things, if it's good for the client, it's good for you, and it's good for the company, make the decision. Right. I'm empowering you to make the decision. Right. But if it's like, hey, I'm not quite sure, ask somebody in the company that has a little bit more experience. Right. Empowering people to make decisions is critical, though. Yeah. No, and you see that a lot, especially in real estate, and then even in brokerages and stuff like that. Like, or even just in small businesses, like, when you take on you're like, I'm going to start this thing, and then you're the, salesperson, manager, janitor, all of the things, you're always working. Yep. And then it's like, how are you ever going to get, you started this to like have freedom. Yeah. And then, that was I'm glad you mentioned that, because I remember at one point my coach said, Tomas, why did you start the business? And I was like, I wanted to create a job. And he goes, you wanted to create a job, right? And I remember reading the E-Myth, which I make everybody that owns a business or wants to own a business to read the E-Myth. Yeah. And he goes, but your business was built to create the life you want, not to be your life.
Right.
And that distinction is so critical because you have to be able to step outside of it and work on it and not be fully in it. Mm-hmm. And that's difficult.
Yeah. It's a fine line. Yeah.
But that's the point that every business owner has to get to. If you don't get to that point, then what you've created is a job.
It's a job. Yeah. And I think that's the hardest part. But when you get to that point, that crossroad, it's like, okay, having the self-awareness, one, right? And two, be able to step out of yourself and go, okay, what do we do? How do we make this better? Mm-hmm. But always trying to figure out like how we need to improve.
Yeah.
We need to improve. I can't be doing this, the definition of insanity, right?
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's so funny because I was sitting, we have our strategic planning at the end in December. We do our strategic planning in Austin, and we're kind of coming up with hey, what's our new goal going to be? And in the planning, I was meeting with one of my team members in Austin, and he sells in Austin, and he goes, hey, I already wrote down our goal. He goes, we're going to get 1,200 pages. We're going to sell 1,200 pages between both magazines. And 1,200 pages is a lot of ad sales. Just understand that is a lot of ad sales.
Yeah.
And because we did 1,100 last year, which was, we were only shooting for 1,000 and we hit 1,100.
Wow.
So he was like, we can do this. Let's go for 1,200. I was like, oh man, that's great, you know? But the thing is that if you're the only person coming up with the vision, sometimes that is not always a good thing. No. You need your team members dreaming big. And he came up with another, Jeffrey, shout out to Jeffrey, because he came up with another goal that I was like, hold on. And we literally went backwards and worked it out. I was like, dang, dude, this is massive goal.
Yeah.
I said, but we could get there. Yeah. You're absolutely right. We could do this. And that opened his eyes, opened my eyes, because he was already thinking along that lines. So
it goes back to the visualization, because it's like, even though like you're not going to see somebody do it, but he had the vision for it. He brings it to somebody, especially somebody that he's looking up to or is his boss or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you say, yes, we definitely can do that. Instead of it shooting it down.
Yeah.
And it's like, pfft.
And I'll tell you honestly, when he said it, I was like, dang, like, I was like, I don't know if that's possible. I mean, in my mind, I thought, I don't know if that's possible, but then I didn't say that. I was just like, well, how would that be possible? Yeah. So we did the math and
asked the question.
Yeah. So that was really, really cool. But you need vision outside of your vision so that people can feel, and also they feel comfortable. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, I think we should shoot for this.
Yeah. No, man, that's good, man. To me, your journey getting to the magazine, was it 14 years?
12.
12.
Yep.
In 2023, doing print and still relevant.
Yeah.
And still doing what you're doing, is amazing. So shout out to you on that.
Thank you.
Shout out to doing the Ironman.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of discipline. I respect that. So what's next for Tomas? I mean, what do they say? Make a goal that's scary. That scares you?
Yeah, the big, hairy, audacious goal.
Yeah.
Houston is definitely there's no luxury home magazine in Houston. All right, it's crazy to think.
Yeah,
it doesn't exist there. So that's one thing that I've been thinking about. And for anybody that hears this podcast, if you're in Houston, and you want an opportunity to do something big, because the Houston magazine will be massive.
Oh, it's massive.
Yeah,
I lived there for like 6 years. I mean, it's totally different.
Totally different
when I was there.
Yep. So Houston is one. Right now I'm in a position where I really am. I want to try to help. Obviously, growing the magazine. We're growing the magazine, and it grew. Like we're at 108 pages for the current issue, which is crazy. You know, last issue I think was 96. So the magazine grew, and I have a feeling our anniversary issue that's coming up for 12 years will be another big issue. But I definitely want to speak more. I want to do some more speaking. But I also want to help my wife. My wife just wrote a book, and this is a plug for my wife, just a shameless plug.
Sure.
She wrote a book about her memoir, and it's called Shattered Pieces Everywhere. And it's a story of her journey, and our love story, just, us meeting and getting married. And so I'm biased. I understand that. I don't like reading memoirs. I'm not a memoir person. But it's really stinking good.
Yeah.
Get it for your wife.
Okay.
I promise you,
Okay.
you will be blown away. This story.
When does it come out?
It's already out.
It's already out.
Yep.
Amazon?
You can get it on Kindle for 99 cents.
Okay.
You can order it through Amazon Books. If you like the physical book,
Sure.
It'll be delivered in a day. I think
Okay.
they have a day turnaround for the book. And I'm super proud of my wife. She is going to be doing some touring this summer. We're going to be in Richmond this week for a book tour.
Cool.
And then possibly DC. And I couldn't be prouder of her, man. This book is good, dude.
That's awesome, man.
It's really, really good.
I'll definitely get it.
And it's on Audible, too. So for those of you who don't like to read in your car, you know what I mean? You want to have it read to you,
So
that's fine, too.
That's funny that you say that, because I'm I kind of have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Like I buy books. I like the physical part
Yeah.
of it. I start reading it. I'm like 4 chapters in.
Yeah.
My problem is when I'm reading, like I taking what I'm reading and I start applying it to like my life and everything else. And I just start thinking about, and I'm like, oh, and I start taking notes and stuff. And then I put it down.
Yeah.
And I don't really go back and finish it. So like I do a like halfway books.
Yeah,
type
for sure.
thing,
For sure.
And I just throw out. My wife's like, you buy these books, but you don't finish them. And she reads a lot.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, but I do. I always go back. Like it's kind of like when you go into a bookstore and the book draws you to that book. Like it's the same thing. Like sometimes I'll just go back to it and I finish it or whatever. But
I think I will look. I don't finish every book I start. John Maxwell has a rule. John Maxwell reads reads a lot. Yeah. His rule is if the book doesn't get his attention in 20 minutes, next book.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So like there's books. I remember the first time I read Atomic Habits. I'm sure you read that book. First time I read it, I think I got to maybe chapter 6 or 7. Was like, it's cool, And then I did a mastermind on it, and I was like, dang, that's a good book.
Rick told me about those. He was like,
great book.
We were going into like, he's like, man, you need to come to the next thing. And
yeah.
I forgot what book you all were reading. And then I was like, I'm down, man. Let's do that. But
the next one I have, I'll invite you. Yes,
right,
for sure.
Dope.
Yep.
Yeah. So I lost my train of thought when you were talking about Houston.
Then what's next?
Oh, yeah. So, but I saw a bio and it said something about you writing a book.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a goal.
Okay.
It's definitely a goal. I feel like I don't think if you saw my library before I moved, I have about 35 to 40 journals. I've been journaling since 2002. So I have almost 20 years of journaling that I've done. And I journal probably different than a lot of people. I usually carry one journal. No, it's in the car. But I carry one journal for business, work, life, everything, and I put everything in it. Like if I'm on a phone call with, bank, or I'm on the phone call with a customer, everything goes in one journal. Okay. And then I have what I call a table of contents, a bullet journal. I make a table of contents so that I could go back and find what I wrote in that journal. And I put it at the front of the journal. And I can explain how to use it. It's really, really easy. There's a whole company that does this, that has the process. And there's a book called The Bullet Journal, which I highly recommend. It's really, really good for journal writing. And so I know that I probably have a handful of books already kind of curated throughout all the journal writing that I've done, and things that I put, the years that I've put together. And so eventually something is going to strike me. I was just today I was just doing a Bible study by a guy named Anthony Tomas, and he it's like 7 signs to your assignment. Like, what's your assignment? And I'm sitting there going, okay, what is my assignment? What is my purpose? Right. As I move through this next phase, I'll be 48 this year. And so as I move into getting closer to 50, what is going to be, these are like some of the most prime years of most people's lives, between that 48 to 50 to 60, to where you can really, really do some amazing things. And so it hasn't hit me yet what my book is, but I know that there's something in there that will come out, and I have the person to help me. My wife, she's already written. My wife has written 2 books.
Really?
Yes, 2 books.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. for you to finally something lightning strikes, and then you writing something, because I think it would be a really good book, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I'm looking forward to it too. Yeah, yeah, the process is not easy. I saw what my wife went through. It's not an easy process, but I know that she's going to be a big help when I'm ready to do it. Yep.
I mean, y'all's from the story and the relationship, like you said, you picked the right partner, and y'all are pushing each other, and God bless with that. So where can people find you? Where's the best place to find you?
Yeah, so I have a website. It's TM3, the number 3, TM3 Impact. That's my website. They can, if they want me to come for speaking, I have a thing on there they can look at for booking. Okay. Masterminds, you can do the email, and so you get access to when we're going to have the next mastermind. Okay. My podcast, I have a podcast called TM3 Impact, where you can find that on everything, on YouTube, Google, Spotify, and iTunes. And then I teach classes. So I teach real estate classes at
Sable, or
no, I teach them for offices. Yeah,
okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So I have a one class that I'm teaching really right now heavily is the luxury report, where I go in and I show people like what's happened in the history of San Antonio for luxury over the since 2006.
Okay.
And I go through all of the statistics, basically showing why San Antonio is primed. We are in the baby stages of luxury.
Okay.
We sold 722, if you go by the calendar year, it was $622 million homes, calendar year last year.
Okay.
Year before that, it was like 579, and then it just 279.
Okay.
So in the last 3 years, we've just had this massive jump, and that's just 1 million to 1.999. Okay. So that class is, if a brokerage wants me to come in to teach that class, they can contact me. Super easy. Just go to my website, tm3impact.com.
Awesome, man.
Yep.
Awesome. Any parting words, as far as just inspiration, motivation for people, and any entrepreneur who's thinking about taking the jump and doing their own thing?
So the big thing that I've been really honing in on is done is better than perfect. This is one thing I've been really honing in on. I'm not a perfectionist by any means, but I will do the paralysis. I'll get the paralysis by analysis, right? And just freeze and stop and not actually execute,
right.
Or plan to a point where you plan and then you overplan and then you analyze the plan, but then you don't actually do anything.
Right.
So I would tell people, it's like, look, done is better than perfect. Don't get so caught up in having the perfect product or the perfect pitch or the perfect whatever. There comes a point when you got to go out there and just execute. Yeah. You got to go out there and run the play. You got to go out there and figure out, hey, this didn't work the way I wanted it to work. Why not?
Yeah.
And then analyze, then go back and then repeat. Then go out there and do it, try it again. And fix, tweak. Yeah. So I would tell people, just understand along this journey, you will fail. This is another thing I tell people. Failure is not fatal. Yeah. Failure is a way to learn so that you can figure out how to do it better. And if entrepreneurs went into their business with this idea of that, number one, failure is not fatal, and number two, done is better than perfect, they'll walk into an opportunity to really grow and understand the beauty of business is the infinite game. How do you keep the game going? If you spend every penny, you can't keep the game going. True. Right? So you got to save. You got to figure out how to save and how to set some money aside. But keep the game going as long as possible. That is the strategy to success. It's the long game. It's the marathon mindset.
Perfect. Last question. Who do you got? Denver or Miami?
Man, I look, if you would have asked me last night, I would have said both these teams are going to get destroyed by Denver. That was my opinion last night, before the game. Now that the game is Miami showed a level of grit and tenacity that like blew them out by 20. Like it was, I think if they can run that zone effectively on Denver, I think it's going to hurt Denver. because it destroyed the Boston Celtics.
Bad.
I mean, they had no answer for that zone. So I say Miami steals one. It probably won't be game one because I think they're still going to be wore out. But I think they might take game two, and then it just becomes a series from there. It's just like, can Jimmy Butler stay healthy long enough? Because he got hurt last time, right? He just got injured. Can Hero come back in game three? I heard Hero is going to come back.
Yeah, I heard that.
So I don't know, man. I don't think it's a coin flip. I think Denver is going to be heavily favored.
Yeah.
But Miami is just a different. They're differently coached. They have a different dog mentality.
Yeah.
And so they're definitely not the Lakers. I can tell you that.
No.
Miami's not the Lakers. I think they're better. So
and I didn't watch a lot of the games, but just watching Miami, I watched the series, the end of it, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be a good finals though.
I think it should be good. But again, my hope, man, is if I just don't want to sweep.
A sweep, yeah. Nobody wants.
I don't want to sweep. Yeah. I want it to be good games. I want it to be close.
Yeah.
And the way Miami's players are playing right now, they have a level of confidence that they're these undrafted guys that they keep talking about, right? But they got a level of confidence, man, that's just scary going into the finals. And that's what you want. You want people hot and ready to play.
Butler's mindset is like my stuff, but so that's why I'm rooting for him. But other than that, like I just want to see a good series.
It was a good series, but more importantly, we want the Spurs back.
No, we wait.
I mean, come on,
they're coming.
Dude,
just like Dion says, they're coming.
Yeah, it's gonna be ridiculous. It's gonna be ridiculous. Did you already get season tickets?
No,
I've actually thought about getting.
I thought about
like a 10-pack, just to be like, I want to be in the building. You know,
I think a lot of people had already thought about it, and it's because
3,600, right? Is that the number you heard?
Yeah. It was
boom,
I mean, gone.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's gonna be crazy, and then with the new campus and everything, it's gonna be lit.
Yeah, good for San Antonio.
Yeah, absolutely. Tomas, appreciate it. Thank you so much for being on, man. And it's really great meeting you. And look forward to more and getting to know you even more.
Awesome. Thanks, partner. Thanks for having me.